Hello, I'm Maria from the Richlands Homeschool Life. Today's Tuesday, so back with another vlog. I'm in my normal setting, but we're not learning in here at the moment because the table's not in here, and I've still got things all over the floor. I'll just give you a quick show. See, up there. So sort of the table will come in front of that, but there's not much room at the moment. We've been sorting Sean's room. If you've seen my previous video, I'll have told you. That's all sorted and tidy. It's just all these bits sort out, and a lot of that stuff in the pile she says she doesn't want. So it's what to do with it then. Got to put it all on eBay or whatnot, or I'd love to have a yard sale actually and just sell it like that. It'd be so much easier. We'll see. So I've got to sort through that before we can actually learn in here. So Sean's downstairs at the moment at the dining table, and she's doing lessons down there. I think she's working on a new topic today for the Antarctica, so she's doing that. So I thought while she's doing that, I'll pop up here and have a quick chat with you, because what I want to talk about is checking facts. I mean, as a parent, when we're teaching our children, we try and check the facts as best as we possibly can. I mean, sometimes things are because you get a bit of wrong information maybe, but you can cross-check it with something else and, you know, get what you need to know that way. So we always make sure we check our facts. And the same with our children. When we're giving our children work to do, if we're giving them some independent work and saying, right, I want you to do such and such, or you pick a topic, and like Sean is doing her Antarctica today, then she'll Google and research information herself. And if she thinks something might not sound right, or, you know, in the Google list, if you put a question in and all the things come down, you might see opposing things and you think, well, I'm going to look into that, see what's what there. So that's how you sort of find yourself going along and you double checking facts and things like that for the information you want to know. So going out and about, when we go out and about on day trips, like we've done a lot of National Trust, and I'm going to show you an example in a moment. And when we go out and about doing National Trust houses and that, we go looking into about the family that lived there, about the estates, if there's estates attached to it, which quite often there are. And you tend to find out about the family. You find little bits of stories, interesting stories. Maybe when you're Googling online about the family, you'll find people from, like, you get a lot of preservation societies and historic societies for different villages, and you'll find people who will talk about these people in stately homes. Maybe their ancestors worked for them, or the new stories that have been passed down, and they're great things to do. And you get a picture of the family, and so you sort of know what you're going into. When you go to visit somewhere, you're going because the family interests you. I mean, the last one we went to, Shugborough, well, it might not be the last one, I think actually the Abbey was, oh, can't think of it. But anyway, one of them we went to earlier in the year was Shugborough. We went there with the intentions of seeing the apartments of Lord Lichfield, because he was a photographer, and Sean's really interested in photography. So we sort of researched that a bit, and she was able to go and see his, well, some exhibits of his that he'd taken photos, and also equipment and that. And it looks really old now, but it was good for Sean. She enjoyed it and got an idea of it. And alongside that, you get to see the home, the family home. And in different rooms, there was different things pertaining to periods of that family's time. So that's quite good. But what happens when, like a conservation group, in this case, we went to a National Trust property. What happens when they decide to change things and try and bring them up to date? Are the facts so correct then? Is what they're showing you correct, or is it even, you know, right to teach children the way that they're showing you, portraying things? And you'll see what I mean now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take you actually to Sudbury Hall, which they have changed to, I think it's the Children's Country House Museum, something like that it's changed to. And I'm just going to show you what it's like now, and we're going to have another chat again in a little while. In fact, I'll probably chat through it as well, and you can see what I mean in a little while. So here we are at Sudbury Hall in Derbyshire, now known as the Children's Country House. Beautiful, as you can see. It was owned by the Vernon family up until 1967, I think it was, when they handed it over to the National Trust for safekeeping and to preserve its history. But when I went in, look, I knew straight away that things weren't going to be as they should be, because no Daleks have ever lived at Sudbury Hall, well, not to my knowledge anyway. So I thought that was a bit strange, although they've got the Children's Museum next door, which has been there for donkey's years. You know, I still thought it was a bit strange first thing to greet you. A hopscotch carpet, which the girls were having a go on. We enter in the Victorian schoolroom here. There's a little museum, and as you can see through the window of the schoolroom. So we did go in there, as you'll see in a moment, but I didn't film all of it, but I did film part of the lesson. I was looking in some of the desks where they've got some of the displays. I mean, fidget spinners, that's a bit modern for Victorian times, isn't it? An example of an old desk, adorned by modern reading books next to it. I think modern life's taken over quite a lot. Even the settee is very modern for Victorian times. But yeah, we're looking for the cabinets. I looked on that because along there is some of the reasons Sean doesn't go to school, one in particular. But we're about to go into the schoolroom and we're going to listen to part of a lesson.
Anybody?
Reading, writing and arithmetic.
Was that a hand raised, Miss?
Sorry.
Yes, Miss. What's the answer?
Reading, writing and arithmetic.
Is correct, Miss. Thank you. And today's first lesson will be reading. Today's poem is here on the board, and I'd like you all to recite it with me, please. Are we ready, class? Yeah. For golden daffodils out in the sun, we give you thanks, O Lord, that spring has come. That was appalling as a first attempt. I think we could do much better. With volume and enthusiasm, please, everybody. For golden daffodils out in the sun, we give you thanks, O Lord, that spring has come. Much better, class, well done. And learning like that via repetition would have been how you learnt in Victorian school, as books were far too expensive to give to each of you. And so on to today's second poem. This is our school motto, so I'd like you to recite it nice and loudly, please, everybody. Good, better, best, never let it rest, until your good is better, and your better best. Well done, class. Please bear it in mind as we go through today's lessons. And can anybody remember what our second R was? We've had reading. Anybody? Yes, miss? Okay. Oh. Is that an elbow on the table there, miss, and a slouching posture? Do you think that's acceptable in my classroom? No, I didn't think so. Does anybody know what this is?
Yeah, so I didn't film all of it, just filmed part of it because it went on for a while. This is the hall. The Children's Museum was to the side and we went round to enter the main hall. You can see it's beautiful grounds it's set in. It's not got a lot of gardens, and there's the village road goes sort of at the front there. You can see cars going along, but the estate goes far back. The Vernon family still own the estate, and it goes way beyond the road where you can see, and there's a lovely village, really old village. I should have filmed the village, but I didn't actually. It's been raining, so I didn't go a wander in it. But just a quick span around the hall so you can see the hall itself. The house, it's beautiful. The architecture is really lovely. It looks so nice. We drive past it every day actually, and it looks lovely. It's a beautiful hall. This is what we were met with when we went into the main hall. It's like a room where they introduced you to everything. The woman distinctly said, do not film her talking, film her. Well, she didn't say her talking, but she said, do not film me. I've not signed nothing. I do not want to be filmed. So I think, again, Sean had got his SAR histories on, and obviously they recognised who they were and didn't want any more advertising. But I tried to get a look at the pictures. The pictures are beautiful. I do love looking at old pictures. I love to look at the family and read who they were and think what time period they were in and what the house was like and the area was like, the estate and everything. This is why me and Sean like to go to homes. We like to see the history and everything involved. But they were more intent on telling you it was a child's home. Now, I filmed this ceiling bit here, not only because it's a lovely bit of artwork, but you can see where there's little dots in the middle, and you could see where they've taken down an original light fitting just to put this up. Now this, she was telling us what a fun place it is for children. She did have a little bit of briefing about history at first, which my daughter-in-law said wasn't there last time. Now, all of a sudden, they've inserted it right at the beginning, but then she went on into childhood and how it's a fun place to be in that house and you pass through the realms of time. It's like time travel. Look up and you will see, and this is what you see when you looked at the ceiling. Only I didn't look up, I just put my phone flat, and I watched it through my phone, filming it at the same time. But this is supposed to be the hands of time and the hall going back in time and coming back to modern era, and incorporating modern life into what would have been, you know, an old home. Although there's no history left of the home, they don't really tell you any history of the Vernon family at all, really. They don't tell you nothing about it. It's just now been promoted as a fun place for the children to run up and down and exert all the energy they want, and also, you know, to sit and look at children's books, to play and laugh and scream and shout and run. It's a fun place for children. It's no longer a historic home. So this is what you're looking at the ceiling, sort of taking you in like a kaleidoscope to make you feel like sometimes you go through a time slip and you'll see the odd thing, but then it's back to modern day fun and games and the two are colliding sort of thing. It was very bizarre to me, especially as they'd taken down a really lovely light fitting that would have been in that room and replaced it with all of this. Why cannot the guy just talk about the house, introduce you to the house, and then tell you that some of the other curators will tell you different stories in each room's interesting stories, or book a tour and they tell you some brilliant historical stories. Then they get them from the records, and the records are all there to see. They keep beautiful records. Homes always did keep records of everything. Everything is spent, everybody worked there, incidences, the estate records, everything. The history of it all is there. But no, they've told this through a kaleidoscope of children. Go and have some fun. Go and race around. And yet they've got barns where they could put lots of fun things, like the children's museum next door. It's like in an out place next door. And that's really nice. Now, why could they have not tagged some fun stuff on there if they felt they needed more children's fun stuff? So now we're going for the hall, and the staircase is beautiful. I mean, look at it. Look at that. The paintings are lovely. The colours are nice. Look at that stairwell. Look at it. It's gorgeous how it's been designed, and the pictures going up it. And I think the yellow looks really pleasing to the eye. And those ceilings are to die for. And the door frames, I mean, they're beautiful. And this is the house to me. Sean loves looking at all of this, and she'll go, look, Mum. But then we entered the music room. The music room, this is where my son and daughter-in-law got married in. It was, you're not allowed to wear pointed heels or anything on your feet. But now it's a discotheque room, flashing balls of light. And you know, in the background, they were playing Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran, where was he in the 16, 17, 1800s? He wasn't even thought of. Half of his ancestors weren't even thought of. And look at this, on the grand old piano, the beautiful antique piano, neon lights, dance like it's 1699. Well, if that isn't an insult to history, what is? You can't even look at the paintings. I mean, you could have an epileptic fit in there. All the beautiful ceilings and the paintings, you can't study them. And the fireplace was grand. It was beautiful. But yeah, that's what they did to it. That's one of the rooms they've utterly destroyed. You see through there, people dancing around and, you know, There's no words for it. Look at that. Look at them carvings. I mean, it's gorgeous. That stairwell is. It's gorgeous. I loved it. And the stairs are nice and easy to get up as well. I didn't go out a puff. But them ceilings and the paintings, I mean, you've got to be there to see them. But there was nobody there to tell you what they were. There was nobody to say, you know, who did them, what era they were done in. It's left for you to go and research that, which luckily we do research things before we go. But yeah, there's fun and games even in the bedrooms. To me, the bed would be brilliant, but there was all fun and games around it. Oh, and look at all of this origami. And I tried to focus in so you can see what it's made out of. Pages out of a book. So how many children have now gone home after being here, ripped pages out of the book to try to make models that they've seen? My daughter-in-law said it was full of them. There was a lot more, but half of them have gone now. But the books are lovely. I love old books. I do love looking at them. And you can see all the books with records in there. And then lo and behold, you get a bit further down. And in amongst them all is modern books, horrible histories and things like that. You know, there's nothing wrong with horrible histories. They're great books for history. But, you know, as an example of modern books, there was Dandy Beano, all kinds of things. But yeah, looking more at that origami. I mean, origami is really clever if you can do that. It's really clever. But it's just the fact it wasn't original to the house. They didn't have that there. And also it looks like it's been ripped out of books and it's not shown a good example. I mean, like I say, my children have gone home and ripped up books and thought, I can do that. Here we've got the grand hall, the gallery. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But look at these. I've tried to focus on it long enough for you to read them. They have put all these like slogans underneath, modern day speech bubbles and things like that. They said that children had done it. Then children, I don't know, they'd asked children to do it or something. Can't remember, something to do with ambassadors to the National Trust, I don't know. And the children had asked them what they thought about it and they'd wrote it. And then they've gone and put it there. So people now think that they talk like that in those days. I mean, look at that. Don't listen to old Babs over there. One of these days I'll throw an orange at a frame. That's inciting a bit of anger issues, isn't it? And then they'd put these below lovely paintings. It's terrible. I mean, that to me is terrible. I went along them all and I took pictures of them. And right at the very end of this gallery, they've done like a photo booth thing where you get dressed in outfits for the day and, you know, see what you look like. But I didn't film it because there was children in there, so I couldn't really film it because I didn't think that was appropriate to do that when there was children in there. But yeah, and it's quite a big thing. It wasn't a small booth, it was quite a big booth. And at the end, the last two paintings on the wall, you couldn't get in and see them properly. You know, you like to stand back sometimes and look at them to get a good view and see what's what. And you couldn't do it, not there, because they'd just taken up the room at the end of this gallery. It's sad, really. It is sad. I don't know what to say about it. It's just so sad that they think that, you know, well, they're leading children to believe this is how they would have spoken during the time periods, instead of actually telling them this, you know, they just wouldn't have spoken like that. They wouldn't have spoken like that at all. Now we go to this box that has got toys. All along the gallery, boxes of toys. And look at these books my son pulls out. Books on feminism. Awesome women. Well, nothing wrong with awesome women. We are awesome. But feminist. These are books that they're placing in there that's in a building that's portraying a time when women knew their place. You know, men were the sort of the heads of everything and women were below and they knew their place. Yes, a good woman would speak to her husband, they'd make decisions, but the man always made the final decision. He'd take advice perhaps from the lady and his wife in quiet quarters, but you know, it wasn't sort of shouted about. Women knew their place. So to have books on feminism in a place like that and not even be telling you anything about it is terrible. There was a lot of people who were not looking very happy, and there was a lot of people going up and complaining, and heard one woman moaning about it. Now this is the worst thing. The Vernons were not known to have had slaves at all. There's no records of them having slaves, and there was no need for them to have slaves because they'd got an estate full of workers anyway. There's absolutely no connections that anybody's ever found to slavery or any need for it. But this cut-out thing, poster thing, made it look like a painting on the wall of slavery. Now, nobody knows where the painting come from. They don't think it's genuine to Sudbury Hall, but these are making out it was. Now, this is what the original boy looked like on the painting. See, it's a bit dark and dingy, and you'll just see the painting coming up now. Now, look at him there. They've cleaned him up, glowing, bright, so he stands out. So the first thing you see is him. Oh, look, a slave. I mean, how bad is that? Defaming a family and trying to make out that they were in slavery when there's absolutely no records of it. Here we go, look, more books amongst original old books. They've got all these modern annuals and things like that. Even Sean's got that book, The Explorer. We were reading it last year for a read aloud. But yeah, then you've got nice old books. I love to see the old books. Lots of people do. Lots of children like to see the old books because, you know, children don't know sort of about old books and things like that. Oh, all the eggs in there. My granddaughter said when she went in the first time, she saw all them eggs, it reminded her of me because I've always got trays of eggs everywhere. But yeah, the books, it's just awful really, putting all those modern ones, because I think you've got to depict what they read at them times, what they wrote about, the history they wrote of, you know, finances and things like that. Children love that sort of thing. You've got to tell them, you've not got to dumb them down and insult their intelligence and make them think they can't grasp the situations of things. It's crazy, but having a look in the background, how nice that is. So by looking at that, you see what I mean. How things have all gone a bit wrong and how they're portraying things a bit wrong. Aside from what I showed you, we went on this little tour that was, well, it was a secret room. It's called The Secret Escape or something. The Escape Room, that's it. The Escape Room, it's called. And so you go in there and you get allocated a certain time, and it took us into like a parlour, a living room. And we had to solve puzzles, which was a jigsaw, which led you looked underneath when you did the jigsaw to find a number. Then you looked on the piano at the number music and what the song was called, which happened to be the name of a dog. So you went to Dogwell, found a key, and that let you into the next room. And in the next room, you did the same sort of thing again. You had to go through drawers and find clues with numbers of books. And it'd say like bottom shelf, third one along, or ninth book or something. You'd look and you'd see what the number of the volume was and write your numbers down. When you got all these numbers, you dialed it on this telephone, and then they sort of let you to the next room. And then the next room was like, so that room where the phone was, that was like, got books, and it was like an office room. Apparently they were Lord Vernon's original private apartments, but they've now been done up to play this game in. And then in the next one, it was a nice big dining table, it was a dining room, but they've done it up so then you've got to, because the idea is you're looking for a spy and you've got to sort of solve all these clues. So what they did was they had to make up the dining table and everything, and time they put the knives, forks, plates, glasses, spoons, and then they had to put some fruit on each plate. When they emptied the fruit bowl, there was a clue underneath. So they had these torches, fluorescent torches, the woman gave them, and they had to follow, it was a number I think it was, and they had to follow the number on this table. You shine it on the tablecloth like ultraviolet light come on pattern. So they found the number line which it associated to, I'm not sure if it was number 2, I can't remember. Excuse me. And then they follow it all the way along, you know, twirling around along with other lines, and it gets to like a picturing at the end with these pictures on, and it points to one of them, an end one. So you go to the picture on the wall where it's a picture of these nurses, and it was the end one, and that's how you solve the clue. So yeah, that was that. Because it was to do with evacuees in World War II, and one of them was saying that there was a spying camp and they were frightened for their lives and everything. Now apparently the first time around they were saying originally this is a true story, but when we went in it was just us, and I think they were a bit wary because my son has already done a video on this. If you want to go across and have a look at it, he'll tell you in much better detail than me about things. Is SAR Histories. If you go across to that and you'll look at it there, probably have to go back a few videos because he went a couple of weeks ago, and there was a bit of a stink kicked up about it, a bit of protest. It got into the papers, and quite a few people had been complaining about how they've altered everything and what they've done, and it's not in keeping with history, because really it's dumbing it all down. It's like, you know, they can't give you history for your children to understand. They've got to change everything. They've got to make it on a real dumbed down level for children today. And I mean, it's horrifying really, because if they're doing this with education, not just history, but if they're doing this across the board in education, they're dumbing everything down. Why? Why are they taking intelligence or robbing intelligence from children, you know, to do that? So, yeah, they were telling people at the end it was a true story, but they didn't say it to us because that was one of the things they kicked up a stink about, because the people knew that it wasn't a true story. That yes, evacuees had gone there, but they knew it wasn't a true story what they were saying. So they didn't say it. We got the impression we were being followed. I got the impression I'd not been there since my son and daughter-in-law got married there. And see, that's another thing about the ballroom in there. Not just the ghastly things they've done, but when my son and daughter-in-law got married there, they strictly told us that you couldn't have heels. You could only have like flat-bottomed heels and low heels because the floor had to be preserved. I went and I'd got a heel that was slightly too thin, and so I had to take my shoes off, and they give me special slippers to wear throughout the ceremony. And then when we got back out onto the flagstone steps in the corridor, there was chairs, and I sat there and had my shoes put back on. So they were very strict about that, but there is no policy on that now. Everybody's running in with anything on the feet, anything at all, and nothing's been said, nothing at all. So what's changed over, you know, the last decade or so, that they have changed their mind that it doesn't matter what you do to the floors. You know, they're still the same wooden floors, but they're not saying anything. They're not saying anything at all. So they've really lapsed on looking after the place, I think. So yeah, I forgot if I was going to say something else. But yes, I would go across to SAR Histories, and you can have a look better there, because he'll give you the information about the hall as well. So if you're interested in the history, he'll tell you that, and you can see the difference sort of from what they do now to how it was. I mean, to me, when I go to somewhere like that, and like some places where you pay for a guided tour, or if you have the guides, you know, you plug them in your ears, are little boxes, from room to room you listen to it. A radio guide thing. I mean, you expect to have the history. That would be great if somebody is in each room telling you the history. I mean, there were people in each room, but a lot of them were very young people, extremely young people, younger than some of my children. And they didn't really know the history. They didn't. I wouldn't be able to expect to ask them anything, because they didn't really seem to know anything other than children's things, children's stories. And their motto seems to be, oh, we've done it for children, it's fun, run around, play, be merry, it's fun. So in other words, run wild in, you know, an historic home. You can run wild, wear what you want on your feet, run wild, do what you want to it, basically, doesn't matter. sort of thing. That's the attitude I got from it all, and that is disturbing. It's really disturbing. And the fact that they were changing stories, like originally they were saying about the spy when the evacuees there was a spy there, and that, you know, that was a true story. It wasn't a true story, and villagers can attest to that. And also the Still family, of the Vernon family live, whose father was the last one to own the hall, and they said no, that's not true. They weren't consulted on any of it, although they still own the estate all around the hall. They weren't consulted about anything. I know they don't have to once the National Trust have taken over, but, you know, wouldn't it be a bit of etiquette? And also to get some stories, maybe say we want to do it, or have you got some stories that are interesting, that will captivate children's imagination and make them want to know more, and know more about the family and everything that goes on. There was kitchens down below. They don't tell you nothing. There was nobody in there telling you anything about the history of how that hall was run, how those kitchens were run and things like that. The list is endless. The list is endless. I've been into halls where they go into detail with everything and you're enthralled by it. You know, you stood, you're listening to everything. The children, small children, are enthralled. They're listening to it. And they'll tell them stories about children maybe similar to their ages working there. True stories that you can fact check, because they kept records, and they'll tell you where to look for these. You know, you can fact check. But yeah, and the little children listening, and that's how they're learning. Children are sponges. They soak up the information, but you've got to give them the right information, whether you're studying something yourself, whether you're helping them do researches. And especially when you go visiting places, you expect them to be able to tell you the correct information and make it interesting for the children. It's not difficult. It's not difficult at all to capture children's imagination with the truth and with true history. So, yeah, that was it for this week, really. That's a little rant, but yeah, I would suggest you go and check out my son's page, SAR Histories. You might have to go back a few videos, but it's Sudbury Hall, and have a look at that, and he'll tell you more about it, and there's probably some very interesting comments underneath as well. So yeah, that's that for this week. Now, well, not for this week, for homeschooling, that's that. But I'm coming back on Friday. I'm going to start doing some Friday vlogs. Hopefully it'll be regular. And what it's going to be covering is other things I'm doing, life stuff, and what is happening outside, what we are doing. I'm going to tell you all about that on Friday. So if you're interested in what we're up to, and just feel a little bit nosy or something, but you can join us on Friday, and I'll give you a quick rundown of what we're doing. It is partly connected to homeschooling. It is to do with Sean. Well, it may be to do with Sean if that's what she chooses anyway, but you'll find out on Friday, and what we've been up to and what it involved, the shed. And also there's a bit of a downside with the shed at the moment, so I'll show you that on Friday. Problems we've got to resolve. So yeah, I'm going to come back on Friday, but it's going to be more of a home life video, what's going on and what our plans are. So yeah, more of a living video. So if you're not interested in that, I'll be back next Tuesday with the homeschooling. Tuesday's always going to be the homeschooling vlog, and I'm hoping Friday will be more like my home living, home life sort of thing. But we'll see how it goes, We'll see how it goes. So yeah, if you want to see on Friday what we're up to, come and join me on Friday. If not, I'll see you next Tuesday. So whenever I see you, until then, take care everybody. Bye.